Well, it's a dark and gloomy day here in Texas, and I know I could fiddle with the camera and get the lighting better, turn on the overhead light and illuminate the room a little more. But, this atmosphere actually fits with what I'm going to show you. And based on the opening title, you could very easily say, oh, fear porn. You're stooping to fear porn. Look, it's not fear porn if it's true. And what I'm going to show you is true. And this, we'll call it an invention, has the potential of being the worst invention in the history of our planet. And I'm not talking like New Coke or Betamax. I'm talking about in terms of destruction. It's a world breaker. It's a humanity breaker. And some of you may have already heard the story. It was released in the bulletin.org, which I'll mention here again in a second. But even those of you that have heard it may not have thought it all the way through, not because you're not capable of doing that, because you're busy, you got a job, you got a family. Well, I'm retired, okay? So I either do this or I'm on the internet looking for a new mod to install for Skyrim Special Edition. So this is a better use of my time, and I have the time to think this stuff through, and it's frightening. But to all Christians, everyone sealed by the seal of God, I will say, fear not. To everybody else, fear. Fear. All right, let's take a look at the title of the article in thebulletin.org. Now, the Bulletin has been around for 75 years. It's a nonprofit organization that is pretty much a watchdog. It takes a look at new technology, new scientific discoveries, and tries to make a determination: will this be good for the planet? Will this be good for animals? Will this be good for mankind? And they give their opinions on it. Look, that's a very noble undertaking. They're woke, just so you know. I mean, they hate us. They would hate us. Conspiracy theorist nut jobs. But that said, the article is true. Their analysis of the article is completely lame and worthless. But here's the headline of that article. Scientists are working on vaccines that spread like a disease. What could possibly go wrong? Now, when they say what could possibly go wrong, that would indicate that they're concerned about it. They aren't concerned about it the way you and I are going to be very concerned about it. And I'll get to their concern here in just a couple of moments. But I want to get three foundational facts on the table before we go into crazy conspiracy theorist nut world, okay? Because we're going there. We're going there because I think this has prophetic implications as well. They will be quick to tell you in the article that these self-spreading vaccines are only for animal use. It would be unethical to dump that onto a human population. This is for animals to wipe out zoonotic diseases that can jump from animal to human. The thinking there is, we can wipe out the virus in the animal population and they'll never give it to us, okay? So it's supposedly only for animals. Number two, it says it spreads like a disease because it is a disease. That what they've done is they've taken a virus, removed the disease payload, and given it a vaccine payload instead. Turn it loose, inject it in a few animals, get it airborne, and it will spread like any other viral disease. But when it invades its host, instead of dumping off its disease payload, it vaccinates them. Okay? That's the number two. Number three foundational truth in the article is don't think for a second that this is they've just kind of thought this up and they're wondering if it's possible. No, they've been working on this for 20 years or more. As a matter of fact, they first field tested this development in 2001. 20 years ago, they were already taking it out into the field and testing it out on animals. In that first test, some Spanish researchers went to an island, vaccinated a couple of rabbits, went away, came back, and discovered that half of the rabbit population of that island was now vaccinated. it was more like 60%. So in their first field test from Jump Street, they had a 60% success rate. I wonder where it is 20 years down the road, like now, how much more viral and how much more successful they would be. Now, they're quick to tell us no one is testing this and researching it for use on humans. Here's what they say. So far, researchers have not developed experimental self-spreading vaccines for humans. There is no clear evidence that anybody is actively working on the technology. Now, how do they know that? Did they call up every secret laboratory and known laboratory and ask them if they're doing unethical testing of self-spreading vaccines on humans and think they got the right answer, the correct answer, the truth? I doubt it, but I tell you what, we can call them too. How about this? Why don't we call the coronavirus laboratory in Wuhan, China, and ask them if they're working on it? I mean, I'm sure they'll tell us the truth. And I'll run it through a translation app so we can all hear it and understand.
就把光暗分开了，神称光为昼，称暗为夜，有晚上，有早晨，这是头一日。神说，诸水之间要有空气，将水分为上下。神就造出空气，将空气以下的水。
Scientist 4017C, thank you for taking our call. Had a quick question for you. Are you folks currently working on self-spreading vaccines?
也不可摸。
Self-spreading vaccines.
有何？
Okay, let me try it this way. Are you people working on self-spreading vaccines for animals?
看哪。
Are you working on self-spreading vaccines for humans?
又给她丈夫，她丈夫。
No.
又给她丈夫，她丈夫。
Are you sure?
到你们吃的日子。
Well, you know what? As a matter of fact, a woman by the name of Nancy Pelosi is going all over the country saying that you guys are working on self-spreading vaccines for humans. She is.
能使人有智慧。
San Francisco. As a matter of fact, I can text you her exact address later this afternoon.
唯有缘当中，
Okay.
你丈夫
Okay.
必管辖
Yeah,
你。
you too. Now, how stupid is that? I mean, of course, they have no idea who's testing what and where it's being done. My concern is not that some government will necessarily pull this on us. I mean, let's just assume for a second that every country on the planet agrees not to test self-spreading vaccines on humans, okay? And every country adheres to it. All it's going to take is one mad scientist or one agenda-driven billionaire to pull this thing off. Imagine this technology in Bill Gates' hand, okay? Just one person. They don't need to make 1 million gallons of this stuff. They just need a vial of it. Start it off and let it spread around the world like flu does each and every year. And it's not just vaccines. It's anything that they can put into a syringe. Anything, including gene splicing technology. The transhumanists who are really pushing hard for this are the kind of over-the-top, God-hating, agenda-driven individuals who would pull this off, who would attempt this. Now, they have said for a long time, there will not be a pure human left at the end of this century. And I wasn't too worried about it because I was just going to opt out. I was going to say, no, I don't want eagle eye DNA to replace my human eye DNA. And I'd be one of the people who resisted, and they expect me and the rest of us who resist die off eventually, and then the next generation will see the benefits, and everybody will be a hybrid at that point, either with animal DNA or synthetic DNA. This now gives them the potential to take my opt-in or opt-out options off the table. They'll just give it to me. Somebody is going to do that. And you know as well as I do, the technology of gene splicing and gene replacement is ready for prime time. As a matter of fact, right now, and you can Google this, this is another true story. It's not a wild conspiracy. This comes from their journals. Stanford University is working on something called the superhero vaccine, in which they would replace your DNA with the DNA of Olympic athletes. Now, is that unethical for a Christian to have their own DNA replaced by another human being's DNA? Well, we may not get the chance to even opt in or opt out. I'm opting out of that, by the way. Okay. And trust me when I tell you, Stanford is not going to take the superhero vaccine and put it out there for free in a self-spreading vaccine delivery system. They're not giving it away for free. They're going to be charging 7 figures to the 1%ers to give to their kids. Although, why in the world would you want to raise a jock? I mean, have you been around them? But that's beside the point. Stanford isn't going to do this to us. Big Pharma isn't going to do that. The Big Pharma is not researching this. They can't make any money with it. There's no money to be made in making an ounce of something and giving it away for free. It's going to come from a sinister organization or a sinister individual. It may come from somebody who is working on that project at Stanford down the road, but it's coming. It's coming. Now, they do everything, the bulletin.org does everything they can to assuage my concern. They tell us this: self-spreading vaccine research is a small but growing field. At the moment, about 10 institutions are doing significant work in that area. Okay, let's take a look at the partial list they give us of the people who are either funding this research or actually doing the research. The National Science Foundation. Okay, I don't know much about them, but it has the word national in their title, which means it's connected to our government, which means they're evil. Okay, we know that. Next on the list, the National Institutes of Health. The NIH is working on this? Fauci's boys and girls? Are you kidding me? What's next? The Department of Health and Human Services. Oh yeah, there's another winner for us. There are folks that are looking out for Christians. That's what they do all day. How do we help believers in Almighty God? What's next on the list? The Gates Foundation. Bill Gates has this? Well, of course Bill Gates has this. You know darn good and well the moment he heard about it, he pounced on it. Mr. Depopulation, Mr. Good Friend to Jeffrey Epstein, the guy who just recently said, maybe we should think about withholding Social Security from the senior citizens who don't take the vaccine. One of the richest men in the world is willing to kick the elderly out onto the streets, take away their month-to-month payments that they depend on because they refuse to take the vaccine that he wants them to. Do you think Bill Gates is capable of crossing the ethical barrier of providing self-spreading vaccines to human populations? Of course you do. As a matter of fact, each time I hear the name the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, I hear a little piece of music in my mind. It sounds something like this: the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, followed by a scream. Okay, let's see who else. There's one more on the list. I'm sure it's nobody to worry about. The Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. DARPA? DARPA? The Skunk Works division of the U.S. military-industrial complex? DARPA is working on self-spreading vaccines? Of course they are. Do you think they're going to give it to rabbits, rats, bats, and chickens? No. They've got plans. I'm telling you, if somebody from DARPA moved into my neighborhood, I'd move out. I'd move out. As a matter of fact, DARPA is tied for number 1 on the list of the most evil groups on earth. Tied for number 1, DARPA, the CIA, the KGB would be tied with them, the MSS, that's China's secret intelligence agency, M16 from the UK, the Mossad, ISIS. I think we can now include our own FBI. What else? The mafia, Mexican drug cartels, and hag ravens from Skyrim Special Edition. Oh, they're horrible creatures. You do not want to run into them early on in the game. The point is, DARPA is working on this. What do they care about zoonotic diseases? They don't. They're out of their minds crazy. Now, I want to read you something that's almost comical if this topic weren't so serious. Listen to this. Right out of the bulletin.org. The University of California, Davis, for example, is working on a DARPA-administered project called Prediction of Spillover Potential and Interventional En Masse Animal Vaccination to Prevent Emerging Pathogen Threats in Current and Future Zones of U.S. Military Operation. Oh, give me a break. You know what that's about? That's about DARPA going to UC Davis and going, okay, yeah, we want to fund a project, and we'll even build a wing onto your science department. And what we want you to do is teach us how to make self-spreading vaccines. That's what's going on here. And whether DARPA does it or Bill Gates does it, somebody's going to do it. Some really smart grad student who hates us, who thinks it would be so fun to walk into a church and let a vial of some self-spreading gene replacement therapy into the air. It's coming. But you know what? God hates it more than we do. As a matter of fact, he flooded the whole world once because of stuff just like this. So what do you bet somebody at some point gets a hold of some, here we go, let's really go out there on the conspiracy theorist limb, Nephilim DNA. Oh, I have a feeling they'll find some. What do you think? But you know what? I am not telling God what to do, but because I know his character, I think I can say with assurance that there are two groups that he's going to protect from this. The church, because he wants an unblemished bride, and I know that is talking mostly about its spiritual character, but he also wants us to be perfect in our generations like Noah. He wants the DNA that he gave us, because we are the image bearers of the Almighty. He wants that to stay and not become a hybrid, chimeric nightmare situation. He wants an unblemished bride. And Israel. He's going to protect Israel because you know the plan. When the fullness of the Gentiles comes in, the blindness falls off Israel, and all Israel will be saved. He will save all Israel, and they will be fully human when he does. Now, how could he protect us? Well, one way, he could rapture the church off the earth and get the show on the road, you know. And I know that based on last week's video, there's a lot of people who just hate the pre-trib rapture, you know. Well, I'm not pro-pre-trib or pro-post-trib. I'm pro-God. Whatever he does, I'm fine with. I'm just saying the pre-trib rapture is one of his options. And yes, you could say, oh, you just want to get out of here. Yeah, I want to get out of here before they do that to me, okay? If you want to wait around for them to give you a tail, then you can dig a nest and lay some eggs if you want. I want out of here. But if God says that's not how I'm going to protect you, I think he has shown us another way he could do that in the fifth trumpet. Remember the fifth trumpet? An angel comes down with the key to the bottomless pit, opens it up, and out fly these hybrid creatures. Part insect, part animal, part human. That actually could be exactly what we're talking about in this video. It may not be, and it probably isn't, but it sets a pattern. What does he do? He doesn't allow those things to harm those who are sealed with the seal of God. They can only go after people who aren't. And he will somehow supernaturally protect his own when this is unleashed. And it is going to be unleashed because it comes at a perfect storm time. They've got the delivery system now. They've got the technology of gene replacement down, and they've got the evil attitude to use it. It's all here waiting for that first vial to be open and spread in some subway or airport or football stadium. I'm not concerned about us, but I am concerned about all those folks who see this evil and still have not made a decision for Christ, have not repented and gone to him as their Savior and placed their faith and trust in him. I worry about them, and I'm also getting a little frustrated, which I shouldn't do because I was the biggest. If you knew what my life was like before I became a Christian, you would think less of me. You would. You'd feel bad about thinking less of me, but you would. So I need to be careful here, but I feel like going up to some of those people and going, what are you, stupid? What are you waiting for? Do you not get it? There is evil unleashed in the world. There is one place to run. There is only one place to run. Our God, the Most High God, Our God is light, and in him there is no darkness. And these folks are standing around on the beach with their hands in their pocket as they watch a Cat 5 hurricane come their way. If you aren't going to run now to him and seek spiritual shelter, I don't know if you're coming. That's what I'm thinking about doing. Instead of giving them the 4 gospel laws, I'm just going to go, what are you, stupid? But of course, I'm not going to do that, because these are wonderful people and they're close. And I think that's what's going on. Drive them into the kingdom before all hell is unleashed. Because, folks, it's true. It's not fear porn. There's a nightmare coming.